The debt limit is the legal limit on how much the federal government can borrow to pay its bills. It applies to all federal debt, both the money that the government owes to outside sources and the money that it owes to itself, such as the Social Security Trust funds. The debt limit is set by Congress, and it can be raised or suspended by passing a law. The current debt limit is $28.4 trillion, which was reached on August 1, 2021, after a 2-year suspension period expired. When the debt limit is reached, the Treasury Department cannot issue any more debt, and it has to rely on its cash balance and extraordinary measures to keep paying the government's obligations. These measures include suspending investments in certain federal funds, redeeming existing investments, and postponing payments to federal retirement funds. However, these measures are not enough to cover all the government's expenses for a long time, and they will eventually run out. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the Treasury will run out of cash sometime in October or November 2021 if the debt limit is not increased. If the debt limit is not increased or suspended before the Treasury runs out of cash, the government will face a default on its obligations. This means that it will not be able to pay some of its bills, such as interest on the national debt, Social Security and Medicare benefits, military salaries, tax refunds, and other payments. A default would have serious consequences for the U.S. economy and its global reputation. It could cause interest rates to spike, financial markets to crash, businesses to lose confidence, consumers to cut spending, and economic growth to slow down. It could also damage the U.S. credit rating and its ability to borrow in the future. Therefore, it is important for Congress to act quickly and responsibly to raise or suspend the debt limit before it is too late. The debt limit does not authorize new spending, it only allows the government to pay for what it has already spent. Raising or suspending the debt limit does not increase the national debt, it only prevents a default on existing debt. The debt limit is not a bargaining chip, it is a legal obligation that Congress must fulfill to protect the nation's creditworthiness and economic stability. The debt limit is the maximum amount of money that the U.S. government can borrow to pay its bills. If Congress does not raise the debt limit by a certain date, the Treasury Department will run out of cash and borrowing authority to meet all of its obligations. This could lead to a default on the government's debt, which means failing to pay interest or principal on the bonds that the government has issued to investors. A default on the government's debt would have serious and lasting consequences for the U.S. economy and the global financial system. It would cause interest rates to spike, stock markets to crash, and credit ratings to downgrade. It would also undermine the trust and confidence that investors have in the U.S. as a safe and reliable borrower. One of the most immediate and direct impacts of a default would be on Social Security payments. Social Security is a federal program that provides monthly income to about 66 million Americans who are retired, disabled, or survivors of deceased workers. Social Security is funded by payroll taxes that workers and employers pay, as well as by interest income from the Social Security Trust funds. However, the Social Security Trust funds are not separate accounts that can be accessed independently from the rest of the federal budget. They are essentially IOUs from the Treasury Department that promise to pay back the money that Social Security has lent to the government over the years. To redeem these IOUs, the Treasury Department has to issue new debt or use cash from other sources. If the debt limit is not raised and the Treasury Department runs out of cash and borrowing authority, it will not be able to redeem the IOUs from the Social Security Trust funds. This means that Social Security will not have enough money to pay all of its benefits on time and in full. According to some estimates, Social Security could face a shortfall of about 25% of its scheduled payments if the U.S. defaults on its debt. This would be devastating for millions of Americans who rely on Social Security for their basic needs. Many of them have no other source of income or savings to fall back on. A delay or reduction in their benefits could force them to cut back on food, medicine, housing, and other essentials. It could also push them into poverty, debt, or homelessness. Therefore, it is crucial that Congress acts swiftly and responsibly to raise the debt limit and avoid a default on the government's debt. Doing so would protect the financial security and well-being of millions of Americans who depend on Social Security payments. The debt limit is the maximum amount of debt that the federal government can issue to finance its operations. It includes both debt held by the public and debt held by government accounts, such as the trust funds that finance Social Security benefits. The debt limit is currently suspended until July 31, 2021, but if Congress does not raise it or extend the suspension by then, the Treasury will run out of cash and borrowing authority and will be unable to pay all of its obligations on time. This could have serious consequences for the Social Security program and its beneficiaries. Social Security has two trust funds: the Old Age and Survivors Insurance (OASI) Trust Fund, which pays retirement and survivor benefits, and the Disability Insurance (DI) Trust Fund, which pays disability benefits. Together, they hold about $2.8 trillion in special Treasury bonds that earn interest and can be redeemed to pay benefits when revenues from payroll taxes and other sources are insufficient. However, these bonds are considered intragovernmental debt and are subject to the debt limit. This means that if the Treasury cannot issue new debt to the public or to other government accounts, it also cannot redeem the bonds held by the Social Security trust funds. This would reduce the amount of money available to pay Social Security benefits. According to the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, the Treasury would probably run out of cash sometime in October or November 2021 if the debt limit is not raised or suspended. This would coincide with a large payment due to the Social Security trust funds on November 1, 2021, representing the interest earned on their bonds for the second half of fiscal year 2021. The CBO estimates that this payment would amount to about $83 billion. If the Treasury cannot make this payment, it would effectively default on its obligation to the Social Security program. This default could affect the solvency of the Social Security trust funds, which are already projected to be depleted in the next decade or so. According to the latest trustees report, the OASI Trust Fund will run out of reserves in 2033 and the DI Trust Fund will run out of reserves in 2057 under current law. If the Treasury defaults on its interest payments to the trust funds, these dates could be moved up by several years, depending on how long the default lasts and how much interest is missed. A default could also affect the cash flow of the Social Security program, which relies on a combination of revenues from payroll taxes, income taxes on benefits, and interest from the trust funds to pay benefits and administrative expenses. If the interest payments from the Treasury are delayed or reduced, the program may not have enough money to pay all of its obligations on time. This could force the Social Security Administration, SSA, to delay or cut benefit payments to millions of Americans who depend on them for their income and well-being. The SSA has some legal authority to prioritize benefit payments over other obligations in case of a shortfall, but it is unclear how it would implement such a policy in practice.